Welcome into another edition of The Session with Londa and David. My name is David Austin.
Did you forget your name for a second?
No.
Oh, okay. You paused. Dramatic pause. I'm Londa Sherwood Austin. Welcome back.
Did you forget your name for a second? I mean, that's
How
weird.
could I? The
Do
whole
you think
world
I have
knows
early onset Alzheimer's?
Sometimes. The whole world knows my entire name because you always say it at the end of our podcast. Well, the whole world, all 6 of you that listen to this podcast know my whole name.
What's really weird is when I forget to put the Austin on your name. And every now and then I do that.
Yeah,
because I knew you before you became my wife.
Oh, yes.
And I find
usually
that
how it works.
I find that of interest.
Unless you purchase someone.
Well, and I often joke that I purchased you from Latvia online. And I did not.
No,
I did
I'm not even
purchase you from
Latvian.
Latvia. No.
Or whatever they...
No. I don't know where we're going with this.
I don't either. Good morning. Hello. Hi.
Anyway, right before we started the show, Londa goes, David's going to scream the introduction, and then he's going to take off his headphones, and it's going to get really quiet. So I had to restart the show because I started it with, and welcome into another edition of The Session with Londa and David.
That sounds like NPR.
It does.
Sounds like something on NPR. All right, let's get into it before people tune out.
Okay, this episode of The Session with Londa and David is called Getting in Your Reps.
Yep.
Get your reps in.
Yep.
And the reason it's called that is because the weather is not super pretty.
It sucks.
But we were still out this morning doing our little 2.5 mile walk with the wind whipping through the Tri-Cities down by the river. And it was icy, chilly, cold because of the wind.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how you came up with the idea for this entire episode.
Well, kind of, yeah. We talk a lot about doing the right thing in your business, for your business. You just put in the reps, right? It may not be producing anything. You may not be seeing any results, but you show up, you suit up, you put in the time, you do the things you know you need to do, getting ready for the time that it breaks loose, right? And being healthy, exercising, whatever, if you've ever had a health goal of some kind, then you understand that concept of I'm putting in the reps, getting ready for something.
Right.
And business is exactly the same way. But when it's cold and ugly and bleak outside, you don't feel like going outside and getting your exercise reps in.
Right. It's really easy to say, it's ugly out. There's a little light rain. Nobody needs to go walking this morning.
In the same vein, it's very easy when things are looking ugly in your business to kind of hide from your business as well.
Absolutely.
And not put in the reps there. And so there are definitely days when I feel like not showing up to the office because I don't have a lot going on and it's kind of depressing, right?
I gotcha.
And so, but you're really good about encouraging me, to you got to just get in and put in the reps, right?
That's right.
Because we're getting ready for the next wave of activity. And so, I kind of wanted to dive into that a little bit today, just to encourage anybody else who is in that place. And I know a lot of you are. I'm looking at the numbers. I'm looking at the stats here locally.
Sure.
We've done about 2,000 sides for realtors year to date. There's
in
been
this
about
marketplace.
in this market, there's been about 1,000 sales, right? Which means 2,000 sides, and I'm using round numbers, but I'm pretty close. We've got about 1,200 realtors, and what all that equals is somebody's not eating.
Yeah.
Somebody's bills aren't getting paid, right? So I know that business is way down for a lot of us. Even nationally, I follow a lot of realtors on social media and people are talking about, we're down 30%, I'm down 40%, I'm down 60%. New realtors who are started. I just saw a TikTok this morning of this guy. He's a new realtor and he's kind of documenting his first year in real estate.
Okay.
And, he's 5 months in and he still hasn't closed anything. And, so that kind of thing, it's hard. It's hard to keep showing up when you don't see results. And while we're on that, let me just speak to my menopausal ladies, because if there were ever a time in your life you keep showing up putting in the reps with your diet and your exercise and you don't see results, it's being a menopausal woman, let me tell you, because you're just showing up and doing it and hoping you're extending your life because you really don't see. When I was younger, I go to the gym for a month, big difference in my physique.
I got you.
Today, I go to the gym for a month and I'm like, well, we tried. You just got to keep doing it because you know it's the right thing to do. And that's my point of this whole episode.
Okay. So let me tell you how this episode came out of the ether this morning. We were out on our walk. The wind was whipping. And
it was awful.
And Londa was not in great headspace because we had a spectacular meeting yesterday with a new customer who hasn't become a client yet, but who is a new customer, and really hit it off. And it seemed like at the initial meeting, we were going to get a house sold. That's how it felt.
Not expecting it, right? It was like totally unexpected. And I kind of set myself up too, because I ran into somebody at the office while I was prepping for that. Mm-hmm. And I said, yeah, I've got this one thing. And he's like, yeah, that one thing could turn into something though. I said, no, I absolutely believe that. I believe I could walk into this appointment. They fall in love with it. Put an offer in, boom, done. We're going forward. We've got another deal we were not expecting out of nowhere that'll close, before the end of the year. And that's very exciting when you're in sales,
sure.
Right? So I was fully expecting it. And that is the way that it looked like it was going to go. And then
last night you got the phone call that, hey, we're going to wait a couple years because of this, this, and this.
Right.
And so this morning, Londa was not in great headspace. And I said, it is just like exercise. And she looks at me and says, what do you mean it's like exercise? I said, well, you go to the gym. First, you don't really want to go, right? Because there's every reason
I
not
never
to
want
exercise.
to go, but yeah.
But then you go to the gym and you work out hard. I mean, you put everything you have into it, much like our meeting with that person yesterday.
Yeah.
We were asking all the right questions. We were doing all the right things and eliciting all the right information, and this person was selling themselves on this particular house.
Right.
It's not our job to sell the house. It's our job to answer questions and solve the problem that this person has, right? So we did all the right stuff.
Yeah.
And when it was all said and done, it was really good exercise, and it hurt a little bit when we realized it's going to be a delay. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? Exercise, if you're doing it right, does hurt a little bit when you're done. Your muscles, they tear a little. And so to build muscle, you got to really kind of beat them up a little bit.
Yeah.
And then it hurts afterwards. But when the hurting is better and gone, you've got some more muscle mass. Well, that's exactly what happened with this customer, because she will become a client years down the road, and we didn't pressure her or make her feel uncomfortable in any way.
No. And left it on a really good note. When I was talking with her on the phone last night, I said, she says, I'm sorry, and I can tell you put a lot of work into it. I said, no, don't even worry about it. Just do me this favor. If you find yourself in a conversation with someone who's got a housing need or a real estate need, just send them our way. And she was like, oh, yeah, you guys are amazing. So
sure.
It ended really well.
So here's what I mean about get your reps in. That was a routine. We did an exercise rep, right?
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
And it didn't feel great when it was over, but we did build something, and that's future relationship.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by get your reps in, because if you take the meetings and you do the stuff and you do the work and you do your research, every deal doesn't happen.
Right.
But we need to be able to celebrate the process, celebrate that we were able to effectively research the meeting, go to the meeting, ask the right questions, and then have a friend for later.
And this is what I am not good at.
Right.
I am not good at celebrating the small wins. I am not good at celebrating the process. I'll admit it. I'm not. I'm not good at celebrating at all.
Right.
Period. Really, I'm not, because when I do cross the finish line, I just set another finish line. I had a coach one time that told me, the thing with you, Londa, that I've noticed is every time you have like this measuring stick that you measure everything by. The problem is once you hit this mark that you've set for yourself on the measuring stick, you just set a higher mark.
Right.
And so this was 15 years ago. This business coach was telling me, like, you've got to learn to celebrate the little things and the wins. I still haven't really learned that.
Right. And it's important. And it all goes back to knowing your why, right?
Yeah. So how, well, I don't know. How do you celebrate the little wins?
Well,
if that's not a habit of yours.
That's the thing. You need to practice it just like anything else. You're not going to magically feel better and be able to celebrate the wins. You're going to have to work at it. You know what I mean?
Okay, but how? That's what I'm asking.
It depends. It's different for everybody. For me, making a friend is my why. So the win is having a good relationship. That's the win for me, not the close. Closing a deal is not the win. Building a relationship is the win for me.
And this is where we're very different because I'm a hunter and you're a farmer.
Well, maybe.
Well, no,
I love the quick turn. I do. It feels great. It gets the adrenaline pumping.
But I still don't know how to celebrate the little wins.
Well, you just got to practice.
But how?
You need to find a way to celebrate that. For instance, our effort yesterday was not wasted. It was not. We had a great meeting with a new customer who in the future, when she's ready, will become a client. Mm-hmm. That's the win. The win is she said to you, this is super exciting. And when I am ready, when I'm done competing nationally or internationally, I'll be ready to make my move. That's 2 or 3 years out.
Right.
Well, there's the win. So you celebrate that you were able to form the relationship significantly enough in one meeting to be able to have future contact. That's the win. So now what you need to do is add this customer to the database and follow up. Ask about the races that she competes in regularly. Continue to nurture the relationship. And every time you do, celebrate that. Because that's getting you closer to your final.
I don't disagree with anything you're
goal.
saying. I still don't have the answer to the question, how do you celebrate when you're not in the habit of celebrating? Now, I could talk myself around and come to my own answer. I could figure it out, right? Because I'm a coach and that's what I do.
Well, let me ask you questions.
But
how do you celebrate when you have a win? What you perceive to be a win, how do you celebrate? And it doesn't matter what the win's for, but when you have a win, how do you celebrate?
I don't usually.
Yes, you do. I remember after you had your first real estate close, you bought yourself expensive shoes and a fancy coffee. You bought the fancy coffee.
Not the first real estate close. No.
You told me you bought a fancy coffee after your first real estate close because you deserved it.
Okay. Let's back up though. I was so cheap. Yes, I bought myself $1.50 coffee.
So is that how you celebrated it?
Every time I closed a transaction.
Okay.
Now, as the years went on occasion, I would buy myself like a pair of shoes.
Sure.
After a closing.
So would you say having a fancy coffee?
But I haven't even done that.
Sure.
In a long time.
Would you say having a fancy coffee and sitting and thinking about your success would be a way to celebrate?
Maybe.
Here's good news. Home coffee's already paid for. We have an espresso machine, and I will make you a fancy coffee every time you do all the right things in the sales process in a meeting that I'm in.
I think it's just more about, obviously, mindset, right? So it's about the habit, like you said, the habit of, I have a habit of pushing forward and not stopping.
Okay.
So it's really about the how. I'm answering my own question, right? The how is the practice of stopping and noticing.
Okay.
And acknowledging it. It's sort of like when you have feelings that you don't want to feel and you have to stop and notice them and acknowledge them. Otherwise it can be bad. I
can't relate to that, but
okay.
Well, I believe you.
All right.
When I feel feelings I don't like, I throw a little tantrum and I move right on. It's instant.
Right.
My tummy doesn't feel good. I don't like it. Help me. That's how I
mean emotional.
I don't
feelings.
really have a lot of those though. I'm kind of shallow.
Anyway. So I think this is the same thing. It's the same thing about just the practice of noticing. It's same as when you notice that you're triggered and you have to step back and work through the trigger.
I can relate to that.
Okay. I think this is the same thing for me. It's noticing when I have had a win, stepping back and giving myself the space to compliment myself, because that's not something that I'm just realizing live in real time, not something that I grew up with. So it's very uncomfortable for me to celebrate a win because that wasn't something that was done in the first 50 years of my life.
Okay. So how do we rewire that?
I don't know. Well,
how do we do it? I think we have to practice it.
You have to rewire anything. It starts with noticing. It's a 30-second shift, right? This is something I teach in coaching. You have to notice. And then there's like a 7-step process that you go through pretty quickly, but it starts with noticing.
Okay.
So, and then giving it space. It's just not something that I've ever practiced.
I think
I'd rather celebrate everyone else but me.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? However, when you do something, when you do an act of service at the house, you want to grab me by the hand and show me what you've done
but that's
every
new.
single time.
That's new because you do celebrate me. So these are like new habits forming. Yeah.
I like that.
As it turns out, you can teach an old dog new tricks.
Listen, I didn't know.
Trying to get right off this.
Yeah, I didn't know that this conversation was going to go this way and you'd get emotional.
Well,
but here's the bottom line. You have a lot to celebrate from that one meeting yesterday because I do believe you connected with that customer in a way that was authentic and not in any way self-serving.
Yeah,
and I do believe that you're going to add enough value to her life that you will be someone she refers business to.
It's someone, whether we ever do, this is interesting because this doesn't usually happen to me. So this is interesting. It's someone that I really want to have in my life in some capacity, one way or another, whether or not we do business together, because she's inspiring. And I don't want to give away too much information, right? But the way that she lives her life and the conversation that we had, very inspiring to me.
Yes.
And so, that's somebody that whether we do business together or not, I would like to stay connected. And that is kind of a different thing for me because I'm generally more focused on connections because there's business,
right? Not
connection for the point of connection. And again, this goes back to childhood trauma. If you grow up without childhood trauma, right, you believe the world is about connection.
Sure. Welcome. Hi.
If you grow up with a lot of childhood trauma, you believe the world's about survival.
Yes.
And so, that's just the two different ways that you and I look at life.
I think I'm a little bit positively rubbing off on you, just a little.
I think so.
Because the way you described wanting to have a connection with her despite the business is how I feel about every single person.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Every single person I want to have a connection with, and I look for the connection points.
Right.
And I don't do it for a means to an end. I do it because I want my sphere to get larger and larger and larger, because the larger my sphere is, the more good I can do. And that's just my core belief.
That's really sweet.
Well, you know what I mean, though?
I do.
It's true. When somebody comes to me and starts talking to me about needing an IT guy, well, heck, I've got an IT guy in my sphere.
Now that I love.
I can make that connection.
I do love connecting people. I love solving problems. That is something that I do love to do. So I do love connecting problems. But connection, just for the sake of connection, is a very rare thing in my life. It's like reading for pleasure. I just don't do it. I read to learn.
Right.
I don't read for pleasure. I don't.
But you do. You just read new media for pleasure. You watch TikTok. You watch those things.
Sure,
Instagram.
But I don't.
And
I don't read a book.
Well, it doesn't matter. The technology has shifted, right? Having to read a book in 1842 was what you had to do to get the information about the world. Today, you open TikTok and can see what's happening right now in real time in Latvia.
But honestly, though, I get what
people.
you're saying, though. But honestly, my TikTok is a lot of the same kind of thing that I read.
Well, that's because
it's a lot of
you
teaching.
are who you
it's
are.
a lot of
right. You're not interested in wasting time.
Right.
That's the truth.
I do like to laugh and be entertained, though. So I do have like some funny stuff.
And
on
that's
my
why you
TikTok.
married me.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. But my TikTok is a lot of like instructional kind of things.
It's the same stuff you read.
It's the same stuff that's in my bookcase.
Which is exactly my point.
Yeah.
You do watch TikTok for pleasure, but your pleasure center is learning new things, not distracting yourself.
Yeah. My latest obsession is I'm going back to something I used to do, which is like herbal teas, making my own herbal teas.
Sure.
And so we're getting quite an apothecary going on at the house.
I don't know what happened. I walked into the house after our walk today and I said, does it smell exactly like maple syrup in here or am I having a stroke? And it did. It smelled exactly like maple syrup and I still don't understand.
And it was just the herbs that I had set out to make my after walk tea.
I gotcha.
And you were catching the smell of them, and it was fenugreek, dandelion root, hibiscus, and cinnamon.
Was there any eye of newt?
No, but it's funny. I used to be really interested in this, and then I kind of got away from it, and I'm kind of getting back into it again. And I don't know. I love natural medicine. I've studied natural medicine my whole adult life, and so I like all that hippy dippy stuff.
It's weird that you're not more into Joe Rogan than you are because they have episodes that are nothing but this every now and then.
I don't.
They'll like have a naturopath on talking about why cat claw makes you feel frisky. I don't know.
The thing is, though, when you bring someone up to me that you were like, oh, I saw the Joe Rogan podcast had this health person on it. I already know who that health person is and have already watched their stuff.
Right.
And I don't love Joe Rogan or his whole deal. So
what's his whole deal?
Oh, I just don't like his presentation and his style. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah. Although I will say we went to some friend's house and watched a UFC fight the other night, which of course he was there and everything. And that was pretty fun. But again, just like the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul fight, that fight night, the girl fight was the best one of the night.
Way better.
The UFC the next night, the girl fight was the best one.
No, the heavyweight fight was the best one. You slept through it.
I slept. I went night.
Yeah, the main event was spectacular.
I was having a nice nap. Here's what happened. I had my belly full. I had a couple of cocktails. I laid down on the couch and you reached your hand over the top of me and put it like on my tummy. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's a recipe for night.
Yep. You were out. It was great. And we didn't get any quieter. We were still into it. And here's the problem I have. When I'm watching either football or boxing or MMA, I am physically involved in the fight. Like
you get a whole workout.
When they're locked up and I'm doing that.
You
My
guys,
body's
it's hilarious.
tensing up. It's weird.
I should video it sometime because he he is so into it. Like he's making the passes, he's doing the catches, he's getting the. And sometimes I say to you, like, did you get it, babe? Did you get it?
That is funny when you do that. And I'm also kind of calling the game as well.
Yeah.
And I
Very
love
loudly.
that I'm usually about a half second ahead of the actual guy calling the game.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, very
And that's
loudly.
because I did, sports broadcasting. It's hilarious.
One of our kids, and I won't say which one, sent me a TikTok, and they said it was a TikTok of a guy watching football, and she said, and they say women are emotional.
Right.
Oh, no, it wasn't no. I responded with, have you ever seen a guy watch football? It was Jake Paul's entrance into that fight.
What a ridiculous entrance, by the way.
They say women are emotional. And then there's these, that was, or dramatic, I guess is what it was. Dramatic. Yeah. And then it was his entrance. If you don't know, go find it and watch it. If you don't know, were you under a rock? I don't know.
Both he and Mike Tyson have been suspended because they didn't think they put on a fair fight. Their licenses have been temporarily suspended.
Huh?
Yeah, that's right. It happened over the weekend.
Well, how? Why?
Because they don't think they fought a clean fight. They thought they were pulling punches and not really fighting.
Well, I think that's true.
Well, yeah. So that's,
I think neither one of them. I mean, you watch Mike's training videos, and then you
not
watch
the
him
same as the
in the fight, and he looked like a slow old man. In his training videos, he didn't look like that.
Right. So
I don't know what the whole deal was, but
I think it was like an exhibition match that comes to the state fair, and they trot out the retired athletes, and for charity, they go in their old Irish knuckle style and do their thing. I think that's what that fight was. I really, really do. Okay. Thank heavens the undercard was so good.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, those ladies were the toughest, baddest people on television that night.
It was crazy.
I mean, they were great. It's polarizing. The decision's polarizing still. I thought the Irish girl was pretty impressive, though.
Yeah.
I mean, the girl from Puerto Rico is a polished fighter, and she moves well, and she's got great form. But that Irish girl was just in there getting bloody and attacking.
I don't want to talk about it again. It made me so sick to my stomach, but I still loved it. So I don't know what's wrong with me.
I don't know why we're talking about
all
sports.
All that to say, well,
get the reps in.
Get the reps in. That's what we're saying. Put the reps in. And during this time, whenever business is slower, it's the time to put the reps in. Still make the calls. And it's also the time to get your education polished up. It's the time to get your database cleaned up. It's the time to, there's no time goes to waste. It's also the time to sit in the quiet and let your brain get creative.
Sure.
Like we don't value quiet thinking time, and we should. Because you could think of some really good stuff. That's why people say, I come up with my best ideas in the shower. It's because you're not distracted by anything else, and you actually have time to clear your brain and think.
I gotcha.
Right? I come up with some of my most creative ideas in the middle of the night when I can't sleep. Right? Because I'm laying there, it's quiet, I'm not doing anything but thinking, and I can think of something. Also, when I fly.
I often solve lending problems when I'm in the shower. Often.
It's because your brain can think. You've put away all the distractions and you're just focused up. So that's a good thing to do during a slow time in your business as well. And you know what? Make those calls. You don't know. You never know who needs your help.
Well, and that's the truth, right? And I've always said, and it's an old sales trope, activity breeds activity. If you're out doing things, you have much more opportunity to run into people who need help with their things.
It's like when you go for a walk in the morning, all of a sudden you feel like, oh, you know what? I could maybe go throw some weights around.
Sure.
Or I could go play a round of racquetball or whatever it is that you do.
Or disc golf. Right. I got to tell you, doing the disc golf thing that I've been doing recently has been so much fun. I'm easily getting more than 10,000 steps a day now because I'm so into it that I'm playing disc golf for sure once a day.
Yeah.
Even in crazy wind. Even in crazy wind.
At least once a day.
Because it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Exercise is great if you're having fun. It sucks when you're not having fun. When people say, David, do you ever go to the gym and just hit the racquetball around by yourself? No, that is awful. I'd much rather play with a buddy because then I'm keeping score and having fun. You know what I mean? I don't feel that way about disc golf because disc golf is a kind of a hybrid of a precision sport and hiking. I mean, what a cool deal.
I will say, though, you brought up a really good point. I don't know if you meant to, but, sometimes you need a buddy.
Yeah, sometimes you do need a buddy.
Both in your work and in your play.
Yes, and when I went to Red Mountain Mortgage in March of this year, there was no sales meeting. I mean, we didn't have, as a group, a way as a team to sit down and talk about successes and failures and learn from them. Now we do. And that's important because if you're around people that do what you do, hearing what's hard and what's good can spark all kinds of excitement. You know what I mean?
It's like having a running buddy.
That's exactly right. And that's why you and I are so good at what we do, because constantly we're talking about that stuff.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Yep.
That's how we came up with this particular episode.
And we hope it was encouraging, inspiring, maybe a little educational for somebody.
There you go. We are not going to do the restaurant review that nobody asked for this morning, only because we don't have more time in the big program. We've done just about 30 minutes worth of content right here. And by the time the song is done, we will have done a full 30 minutes of content. Okay, so what are we taking away from this episode, Londa?
Put in the reps. Stop and notice.
And sometimes positive exercise hurts, like when you're told by a client, now's not the time.
Yeah.
But that kind of exercise is good for you and will lead to benefits, even if those benefits are farther out than you're expecting.
Get back in the gym, pick up the phone one more time.
There you go. For Londa Joanne Sherwood Austin, my name is David Austin, and this has been another episode of The Session with Londa and David. We'll be right back here again next week. Talk to you then.